Regular City Council meeting February 22nd to order. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call shows everyone is here. I do want to say something before we get going too far. Mary Dacus is going to have to leave about 8:15, so when she gets up and leaves, everybody understands that she's been excused. So we have approval of the minutes of February 8th, 2016. Anything new?
I had submitted a few changes to Lisa. She's got that stuff. It's just more encapsulated of what had actually happened.
I'll move them as amended.
Second.
Go ahead, Mary.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the bills, we have none. Approval of the agenda, is there anything need to be added or removed?
The only thing we need to add is under number 1, letter I, Tax Board of Review appointments. The names for that is Bruce Nussbaum, Frank Fogarty, and Lyon, Lyon, Luannlyon.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is where we go to public comment, but before we get started here, I'd like to welcome the judges that have all come here tonight to say hi to us, and I'd like to have them come up and appreciate you guys coming.
Thanks.
Well, they actually get to do a presentation. They're after
Yeah.
public comment.
All right, you want me to wait?
Oh, you're gonna, okay.
So, yeah, they're on the agenda as a presentation.
Sorry about that.
Let's move to the presentation.
All right, public comment, but I do want to say something about the public comments. Been given a lot of thought about this, and been watching it in the past, and it's gone on for a long time, and I think us as a city, we've gotten very comfortable being very lax in allowing a lot of dialogue going back and forth from the audience while we're talking, and that's not really how it's supposed to work, and we've just allowed it to go on for years. It's gotten worse. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not, and it just adds to the chaos at times. We really should only, there's no guidelines to the amount of time you should talk, but really if we could keep it to 3-5 minutes would be great. 30 minutes or less for the whole time would be perfect. And if you have something that you need to say, it'd be nice to come up to the mic and keep it very short so we can understand what it is you're trying to get a point across to us. And but the comments back and forth, I think we need to kind of stop doing that because it's not been very productive and gets confusing at times when people are making comments and we're trying to do approvals and trying to figure out what other council people are saying at the times. And so I think it's just very good practice that we get back on track and kind of stop that kind of dialogue from the audience. If, like I said, if you need to talk, that's okay. Come on up and during the public comments and state your name for the record and what it is you have to talk about. We'd be glad to hear what you have to say. And we may not totally respond all the time, but if it's something that's very important, we might have someone from the city, look into it and respond to it in that way. So I think that'd be just a good way for us to move on from this point because our public comments have gotten rather long. So, and I don't mind everybody talking, that's great, but they tend to go on and on and on, and it's like, and then the people from the crowd talk back and forth, kind of out of order, and so we have to have some direction, on how to make sure the meetings run properly. So, partially my fault for allowing it to go on when I came in, because I said I wasn't going to do that, but I've been just kind of following protocol a little bit on things we've allowed to go on for a while. So I think it's just good that we start to practice a little better, us too. So with that, public comments, anything that's not on the agenda that you would like to speak about, please keep it short and keep it direct and state your name for the record.
Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. One topic, happy topic, keep it short. Last Thursday night, folks, we had our first program of the year, Historical Society program, at the Witch's Hat, and I'm here to tell you it was a big success. We had almost 40 people. Larry Ledbetter came and got me with a truck and brought me up there because I was a little bit tired after the day. And I was so glad I saw it, okay? It was a history given by a lady named Margaret Gibbons, who was someone who Linda Ross knew from childhood, okay? That's how the connection was made with this lady who lives in Ann Arbor, Margaret Gibbons Green. And historical perspective, which was quite a bit of a genealogy, but also historiography, and mixed in with it, went way back before the Revolutionary War. And a lot of it involved free blacks, okay, that were before the Underground Railroad, which was discussed exclusively for the most part. It was very well researched and extremely in-depth and informative. I got to see some people and find out about some people I hadn't heard about in years myself, and I'm sure everyone else did. Anyway, we put on 4 programs a year, and this is the first one, and it was a big success, okay? And there's plenty of good stuff to talk about, but I'm going to let somebody else do it. Thank you.
Is anyone else? Okay. No, I'm looking at it. So are we going to do the presentation now?
No.
There's 2 presentations.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
All
they're
right.
listed right underneath public comment, so there's 2 presentations.
So, well, the presentation of Judge David Law, and update on the S2, or 52-1 District Court.
And good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Judge David Law. It's a pleasure for me and my other 2 judges on the 52-1 District Bench, Robert Bondi and Travis Reeds. It's a pleasure for us to be before you here tonight. We put together a brief presentation. We won't take too much of your time, but we have a lot of information that we wanted to present to you. When I was here in May of last year, kind of out and introducing myself as a new judge on the bench, I had mentioned, hopefully, you'd be willing to have me and the other 2 judges come back in and give a little update about the court. When I was out introducing myself, I was doing that, kind of setting that up. In that, I had met with Judge Reeds, I had met with Judge Bondi, and I found them to be like-minded in that they felt it was important, as I feel, it's important for judges to be out in the community. That being a good judge doesn't just end at the courtroom walls, so to speak, or the courthouse doors, but that it's important for us to be out in the community. So we agreed, kind of as a team, to come out and introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about the court. One of the stops we wanted to make sure we got to was here. So thank you for that opportunity. Publicly, I want to thank Judge Reeds and Judge Bondi because they, for me, as a newer judge, I got appointed February of last year, they've been terrific for me to work with. They care about the community, they work hard, and it's really been a pleasure for me to serve on the bench with them. It's also been a pleasure for me to work with law enforcement from South Lyon. They've been great to work with, too. That being said, we have a very brief presentation. I have a part later on in the presentation, but I think Judge Bondi's has something to add at this point, and then Judge Reeds will follow, and I'll kind of finish it up. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. My name's Robert Bondi, and I'm the Chief Judge Pro Tem at the 52nd District Court, 1st Division in Novi. And In a short time, I became the longest-serving judge there at this time. As you know, we have 2 new judges, one from your community, Judge Reeds, and we have Judge Law now. And both have joined me on the bench, and that's been a great addition. We have 2 hardworking individuals that have put a lot of enthusiasm in, and they're running the old. I went from the young guy at the end of the hall to the old guy at the end of the hall. They're running me a little harder than I'm used to, but that's okay. It's a good thing, you know. As I said, enthusiasm. So one of the things that they suggested we do, which I thought was a great idea, is that we come here and just kind of bring you up to date a little bit on what we do. And because a lot of people know that we're a court, but they don't really know what we do other than we hear cases and they have a general idea. So that's a little bit about what we're doing, just a little education, kind of reach out to the community a little bit and kind of just a short little presentation. So that's what we're doing here tonight. The 52nd District Court is one of 4 52nd District Courts. There's 4 divisions, but we are considered one court, and we pretty much do from Troy. You drew like a big paintbrush around the top of the county and all the way down the western side, and we handle all of those communities. I won't get into all of those as all the other courts, but we're considered one court with 4 divisions. We have distinct boundary lines that are defined by statute. The 52nd District Court was created by statute in 1968 when we created district courts. And we went to a state court system for purposes of our district courts rather than municipal courts. So all of the outer line communities ended up in a county court. So we are a county-funded court representing and servicing many different communities. We represent or service Novi, Lyon Township, the city of South Lyon, Wixom, Walled Lake, Commerce, Wolverine Lake, Milford Township, Milford Village, and Highlands. So those are our communities that we serve. So a lot of different communities, a lot of different things going on, as you can imagine. We've got freeways, we've got malls, we've got hospitals, we've got schools, we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of residences, businesses, and that kind of thing. So we are a fairly busy court, probably one of the busier ones that you'll find. A little bit about what we do jurisdictionally is we handle civil cases that involve money generally, monetary disputes, up to $5,500, you can go to small claims, so no lawyers need to be involved. Kind of a little bit sort of like what you see on TV, not quite as interesting a lot of times, but people come in and just kind of say what they have to say and get it over with and get a decision. They get a final decision in the district court. You can't appeal out of the district court in a small claims case. That decision is over once it's reached there. You usually start with the magistrate, and if you don't like his or her decision, you have a right to have the judge redecide the case from start. So they call that de novo. We sort of start over again. And then once we decide that case, if the district court judge decides that case in small claims, you've kind of reached the Supreme Court of small claims. It's over, so we don't go any further with those. Then we handle civil cases where the value is up to $25,000, and you can have a jury trial, and you can use an attorney, and you have to follow all the traditional legal rules, court rules, rules of evidence, and that kind of thing. And then we handle all your landlord-tenant cases, whether they deal with evictions, they can deal with habitability issues, those types of things, irregardless of the monetary value. And then we do landlord or land contract forfeitures, those kinds of things. We do zoning cases, which you may understand since most municipalities have gone to a decriminalize their zoning ordinance laws so that we can deal with them locally in the district court rather than having to file circuit court lawsuits to get compliance. We have equitable jurisdiction by statute in order to be able to deal with those things, so we can order certain things to be done. If you have a building that's in non-compliant or something, we can order it to be brought into compliance, and if the individual doesn't bring it into compliance, the remedy isn't necessarily punitive of like incarceration or additional fines or anything of that nature. We can order that the building be, the violation be corrected. If they don't correct it themselves, we can give the municipality or the ability to have it corrected, hire somebody to correct it, and then bill that person. If they don't pay, then it goes on their taxes. So we have a way of accomplishing things without having to be overly harsh as to their freedoms or monetary issues beyond compliance. So that was a decriminalization of the zoning ordinance that took place. So those have been quite effective as it relates to zoning, which I'm sure you're very well aware of, and your city attorney's very well aware of, and that was something the municipal attorneys and a lot of municipalities worked for, and that happened about 10 years ago, and we found that to be very successful. In addition to that, we do criminal cases, a lot of criminal cases. We handle felony cases on a limited jurisdiction basis, so A felony being something defined as you can go to the Michigan Department of Corrections, so the penalty can be more than 1 year in jail. And we handle those for purposes of if the police believe that they've got an active felony case, they will typically take that case to the prosecutor. If they don't have that person in custody, they'll take their evidence, their police reports, the other information they've gathered up to the county prosecutor, and the prosecutor will review, determine what the charges should be, and authorize a complaint and warrant. The officer or detective will bring it back to court, swear to the complaint and warrant before the judge or the magistrate, and if we find, we kind of believe at that time, what would lead us to either be probable cause to believe that these things occurred, and the person that's charged is the person that did them, then we will go ahead and sign that complaint and warrant, which then makes it an active warrant for their arrest. And then they are then arrested, so the police then either call them up, say, come on down to the police department, be fingerprinted, or they may go out and pick them up if they feel they're a little more dangerous or something. And then they're brought over to the court, and we have an arraignment on them. We set their bond or their bail, kind of an interchangeable term, which is usually a cash amount, or they may have to post a surety, or they may just have to promise that they'll come back to court. And we may put conditions on their bond. They can't leave the state. They may not be able to return to their residence if there was some kind of assaultive crime that's alleged occurred at the residence. They may not be able to drink any alcohol, or we may monitor them to make sure they're not using any drugs if we believe they're a drug user, or we have reason to believe there may have been drugs involved with the alleged offense. And then those cases are then set for a probable cause conference. That's a conference where they come in and determine whether they want to have a further evidentiary hearing, which is a probable cause hearing or preliminary exam. And that's a short hearing to determine, A, whether the crime was committed, and B, was probable cause they believe they committed the crime, and that would then involve generally testimony from witnesses and so forth. If we find those items, we send those cases to circuit court for disposition. Many times those hearings are waived, and they don't go through that process, and that's the reason why we've gone to the probable cause hearing beforehand, before we do the actual preliminary exam. And then those cases, as I indicated, go to the circuit court, and then they're disposed of there. That's really in lieu of the grand jury process. You hear of grand juries, but we don't see them here. We do have them in the state of Michigan. They're not used very often. It's a little more expedient, and it's easier to use the preliminary exam process for certain crimes that don't need a grand jury investigation or something to convene a grand jury and take people away from their jobs. So that's really what that does. It's kind of a safety valve to allow an examination of that before the person has to go to trial on a felony in circuit court. Then in addition to that, we do misdemeanor cases, and those are punishable by up to 1 year or 6 months or 93 days or something sometimes less in jail and then in a fine. And that's going to be what you would typically think of as your drunk drivings, your retail frauds, which would be your shoplifting, domestic violence, assault and battery, certain kinds of embezzlement types of cases. And we handle a lot of those, narcotics possessions, these kinds of things. A lot of what we do deals with drugs and alcohol, drugs and alcohol, and drugs and alcohol. So, if you took a lot of the drugs and alcohol out, a lot of the crimes wouldn't be committed, to be honest with you. So, so we do deal with a lot of that. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what your numbers are here in South Lyon, last year, traffic misdemeanors, you had local ordinance, 72 arrests for traffic misdemeanors. That may be driving on a suspended license or something of that nature. And then you had 3 that you charged by state law for a total of 75. Traffic civil infractions, maybe improper lane use, turning on a red light when you're not supposed to, going through a red light, doing something of that nature, careless driving. You had 819 of those, which would be traffic tickets. Those are non-criminal. Those are civil infractions. So basically what they're going to do is put points on your driving record and have your insurance go up, and you end up with a fine and costs as a general rule if you end up finding found responsible for those. So 819 of those. Non-traffic misdemeanors, now they could be drug possessions, could be retail frauds, could be an embezzlement, could be a malicious destruction of property, these types of things. You had 97 of those that were written under your local ordinance, 13 that were written state law. Now the difference between state law and local ordinance is if it goes to the county prosecutor, it would be a state law if they did the charging. So the charging would go to the county prosecutor typically if the penalty was more than 93 days in jail and they wanted to charge a little stiffer misdemeanor. So, for example, a domestic violence offense that would many times go to state law, maybe a domestic violence second offense, which raises the penalty from 93 days to 1 year. Or they may have had other reasons why they want to go to state law. There may be combined investigations. It may be that there's other charges being written against this individual by other municipalities or jurisdictions, and they may be coordinating their efforts to say, oh, we're going to have 3 charges in South Lyon and 2 in Lyon Township, and we only got another done down in Nova, and the police department's all just taking up the state law to get one prosecutor to kind of keep track of all of these together. That happens on occasion. Felony case, operating while intoxicated, drunk driving. You had 19 written local ordinance and 11 written by state law for a total of 30. Again, typically a state law drunk driving might be a drunk driving second offense or something of that nature, or operating while intoxicated with a minor in the car. Typically where the penalties are going to go up is when they go to the state law. Felony matters, you had 28 felonies last year, so total filings out of South Lyon was 1,062. So, and then as a note, 6 of the felony matters filed in 2015 were felony drunk drivings, which means they had 3 or more drunk drivings. That was either their third or more than third that they had committed in their lifetime. So we have a lot that we do, so I'm going to let Judge Reed talk a little bit about some of the other things we do and how we handle some of these things. So thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys plan this? Like a little refresher for the bar exam? You guys are the best.
Well, good evening, everyone. I wanted to start out by thanking you for the opportunity to be here, and I join my fellow judges in really being appreciative of that. So, as a follow-up to, my name, by the way, is Travis Reeds, for those of you who don't know, and I am one of the judges in the 52nd District Court, one of the 2 new judges. Judge Law is our presiding judge, and Judge Bondi is our chief judge, and I'm kind of just the other guy who's in the building. And as the other guy who's in the building, I'm going to talk a little bit about, in general, some of the numbers that Judge Bondi talked about and how we handle things, and I'll move on to some of the exciting programs that we have. So as a follow-up to Judge Bondi, those numbers may sound like a lot, 1,000 filings from South Lyon, and they're a significant portion of what we do. But the bottom line is we handle about, the 3 of us together, around 40,000 new filings per year. So, and transactionally, each judge in this district, in your district court, handles between 15,000 and 16,000 cases a year each. So the fact that South Lyon has around 1,100 new filings is really a testament to how safe our community is. And that's one thing, the reasons that we come here is all of the communities in the 52-1 district are very safe, and that's in large part to our law enforcement. Chief Collins runs a very tight ship, and we should all be very thankful to how well our city is run from a law enforcement standpoint, and our city attorney, or the city attorney, does a good job as well. So from our standpoint, we just wanted to make sure that you understand that those numbers shouldn't be scary, quite the opposite. South Lyon's a very safe community, and we're all very proud of that, and the part that we play in helping keep the community safe is something that we take very seriously as well. So if you wanted to come by the court, and part of what our presentation is a welcome to anyone who wants to come by and check out what we do. We're happy to give you a tour. We're happy to buy a cup of coffee. We're happy to show anyone who would like to see the inner workings of the court, how things go. What we do from a scheduling standpoint is we try to be stewards of taxpayer resources as well by scheduling things in a very efficient manner. So we have many communities that we have the privilege to serve, South Lyon being one of those big communities along with Lyon Township, and we schedule those in a very tight, coordinated, and again, very efficient manner so that it's not costing the city multiple days for the city attorney to appear 3, 4, 5 days a week, but we try to consolidate those on 1, sometimes 2 days during the week to conserve resources and to try to work as efficiently as we can to handle the city's business that comes through the court. If you wanted to come by and see the city of South Lyon's attorney in action, Tuesday is the day to come by, and you'll see that going on all day, and it's quite a busy day. Tuesday is, I would say, probably our second busiest day of the week. So we do Lyon Township on Mondays along with Novi, which is the biggest community in the 52-1. And then Wednesday, when Judge Bondi talked about felonies and preliminary exams and probable cause conferences, those are the types of things that are conducted on Wednesdays. And that's usually when the felonies are done and the The more serious cases, if you will, are handled on Wednesdays, and more of the testimony will be taken on those days. Thursdays and Fridays are generally reserved for trials. So that's our schedule at the court, which was part of my presentation. And now I'll move on to a little bit more exciting issues for our community, which are our specialty court programs. So the Supreme Court, particularly Chief Justice Young, has been a proponent of specialty courts for a long time, and even before he started pushing them as strongly as he is, the 52-1 District Court was an innovative and exceptionally focused court for developing and implementing specialty court programs. What is a specialty court program? A specialty court program is an intensive, specialized probationary period that involves a community partnership between local prosecutors, local law enforcement, probation officers, judges, the defense bar, and various different counseling agencies to try to address the problem of recidivism, so repeat offenders. And that is really one of the things that impinges on community safety, because recidivism, as a criminal judge, that's one of the things we're really focused on. We don't want people to come back. And by far and large, most of the people who come into the court on a criminal case, they get their consequence, they never come back, they move on with their life, and it's over. But there is a small percentage of people who come back over and over again, and these are the people who are far more of a risk to community safety. And these specialty court programs are targeted at giving those people not only the tools, but also the intense supervision to keep them from recidivating. And frankly, they're very successful. The average recidivism rate across the state for misdemeanors is about 14%. Our specialty court programs in Novi, and we have several. We have a sobriety court, which targets drunk driving offenders. We have a drug court, which is specifically targeted to face our growing opiate epidemic, which is running rampant throughout the entire state, but is also affecting our communities. No matter how safe they are, every community in the state is having problems with heroin and opiates and so on. We also have a veterans court, which Judge Law is going to talk about. We have an MIP court, which Judge Bondi primarily handles. And so the three of us together work very hard to develop these programs and to implement them, and we're constantly changing them, again, to assist the community in its safety and to help the people that are participants change their lives. That's very rewarding for us to see a person who's struggling to overcome a substance abuse addiction or problem get the tools they need to change their life, and then the resulting recidivism rates are the proof that they work. Back to the point, though, statistically 14% across the state, our sobriety court programs are running at about 3%. So it's a significant, provable number that these programs work and that we're helping people change their lives and making the community safer. So we're very, very proud of that. We're pleased to participate in that. And if you want to come see one of those hearings, whether it's Veterans Court, which Judge Law will talk about, or any of the other programs, you're more than welcome to. And it can be very uplifting to hear the people talk and hear their testimonials about how their lives have changed. So that's what I had. Thank you very much.
All right, good evening again. One of the programs that I get to talk about, and Judge Bondi and Judge Reeds and I are very excited about it, is the Veterans Court program. And as Judge Reeds mentioned, it's based on the sobriety court treatment model, but it involves veterans. So when we have a veteran that has an addiction, alcohol, substance abuse, maybe there's mental health issues, we're able to treat that in a more intensive environment through this program. And as we all know, it can be difficult serving our country in the military, particularly overseas. And we have found as judges through this program that when the veteran comes home, many times those issues, quite frankly, follow them home, be it substance abuse, alcohol or drugs, sometimes mental health issues. And we're able to fairly successfully address those issues through this program. So the veteran has to live in the county. They have to agree. We can't force somebody into the program, but they have to agree to enter into the program. We have to be able to connect somehow the issue that they're having, be it substance abuse or a bit of a mental health issue, to their prior service. Assuming that we can do all of those things, we can take the veteran into our program, get them into this intensive program that involves the judge. It involves hearings every month. Normally on a case we may, there's a sentencing and we may never see the defendant again. And in this type of program, they're coming before us every month, so there's regular reviews, so to speak. The probation department's involved, The VA is involved. There's a defense attorney and advocate that is there every month on behalf of the veteran. The best way I can describe it, it's a team type approach. So that we're all working, we're all kind of going in the same direction to try our main goals to help the veteran get through whatever that issue is, put it behind him or her, and be able to move on with their lives in a successful fashion. And we have found through this program that it's very successful. So we are all very proud to be able to help our veterans. It's a small thing that we do for them, considering everything that they do for us, but it's still very uplifting for us to be able to be part of that program. Another program that I wanted to touch on real quick, and I think the last time, I'm almost positive, the last time I was before you, last year, I was asked about court in schools, whether or not the judges were going to participate in court in schools, and I kind of wasn't 100% sure. I knew I wanted to, but I had not talked to the other judges yet, so I'm very proud to announce to you that all three of us have agreed we're going to participate in the Court in Schools program. We actually have, in the past, sent out letters to the different school districts, South Lyon being one of them. South Lyon has responded, indicating an interest in having us come in and actually participate in that program, so we're excited to do that. I don't know if we have a specific date set up yet for that, but it's in the works of setting that up before the end of the school year. So we'll take our show on the road, so to speak, and we'll take it into the high schools and show the students, a lot of time we find they have an interest in what actually takes place in a court proceeding. What's a court hearing about? So we'll take it to them. They're not able always to get to the courthouse to watch what's going on, so we'll take it to them. They can see how a court case is handled. And I think if a student has an interest in community or an interest in the law, it'll be good for them to see. In addition, it's probably not a bad thing for a student to see, too, that there's, I like to say, consequences for choices. So maybe there'll be a little deterrent effect as well for some of the students saying, you know what, I sure as heck don't want to put myself in that situation, so I'm going to watch what I do this weekend. And that's not a bad thing to have happen either. The last program I wanted to talk about, and Judge Bondi and Judge Reed both touched on testing and the alcohol issues that we have through the court that we handle and the drug abuse. Well, part of that's testing. And normally we'll have a defendant on probation, let's say it's for an alcohol case. Maybe they're testing, they're ordered not to drink, not to use any drugs, and maybe we'll test them once a week. Well, we've found through the years that around the holidays, if a defendant has a drug and or alcohol issue, that it's really going to show itself around that time, around the stress of the holidays. So we put a more intensive monitoring requirement in place on certain cases around the holidays. So maybe it's testing twice a day leading right up to, let's use the example of Christmas, leading right up to Christmas, on Christmas, immediately following Christmas. So then the defendant, I think we have heard, we find, they tell us that helps them, if they do have an issue, to stay clean. That desire to use or to drink when they're knowing they're going to be tested more intensely around those holidays isn't there. But on the flip side, if somebody does have an issue, they may drink, they may use drugs around the holidays, and then it's going to show. They're going to test positive. And our goal isn't to catch somebody, not trying to be the police, not trying to take Chief Collins' job, right? But really it's about if somebody has a problem, they're in front of us on a drug or alcohol case, many times the defendant will say, I do have a problem and I want the help. But there are sometimes they say, I really don't have a problem, I can beat this on my own. And if the court has told you don't drink, don't use, and yet they still are, if the alcohol or the drugs have that control over them where they can't stop when the court's ordered them to do so, when those tests do come back positive, it's a tool we can use to show them and say, look, you told me, you don't have a problem, you don't think you have a problem. Let's reconsider this because we've told you not to use and you can't stop. So let's get you the help that you need and move forward and hopefully put this behind you. So that being said, those are the programs that I wanted to touch on here tonight. We all appreciate the opportunity you gave us to speak. Hopefully we didn't bore you too much. And I want to reiterate Judge Reed's comment that, we're the stewards of your court. Okay, and this goes for the public, city council. If any of you ever want to come in and just observe a court case for an afternoon, a court session for an afternoon or a morning, please do. We would really welcome it. Just if you do, come on in and let us know you're there. Okay, would love the opportunity to say hello. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. I have just a quick question for you. Back in the day in high school for South Lyon High, we used to have a teen court program. Is that still going on?
Well, we used to do teen court. funding it when we had economic problems and resources got scarce, but I think I've heard that they're looking to get back into that.
Okay.
So they're looking
Yeah.
to, I think, refund it.
Because I remember standing in front of you
Yeah, I
for teen
used to
court.
always do teen court.
Yep, I remember that. So I think that would be incredibly beneficial to bring that back because it does inspire people to maybe join the court system, but also gives them a better idea of how it works as well as from a young age.
No, and they actually go through it, so you understand what's involved with teen court is sometimes you'll have a minor that'll get in trouble, and they may be stealing, or they may have been caught with beer or something, and generally the minor will be, when you think of a minor, it'll be somebody under the age of 17 is a typical age group. And so they would bring in either high school kids or middle school kids, and we would have them come in, and one individual would serve as a prosecutor, and another one would serve as a defense attorney, and then 6 or 7 or 8 of them would serve as a jury, and then whatever judge was. When I was participating, I would be the judge, and then we'd go over what the facts were. And then so basically we'd go over these were the facts, and we kind of just read them so everybody understood, and then each individual taking on the part of an attorney advocate would go into the issues they wanted to raise based on those facts and the witnesses they had there and bring those out, and then the jurors would then decide what should happen to that person. And it wasn't like, oh, you're not guilty. It wasn't really that situation. The person already had admitted their guilt and admitted to participate in this program, and then they would have to do whatever their jury, their peers ordered them to do, as long as it was approved by the judge. So they may have said, you need to write a letter of apology to your parents, you need to do some community service at this agency or that agency, and they would come up with a bunch of different things that the kids thought were appropriate for that person to be given this diversion and how that should be handled. So it was quite interesting. We did it for a lot of years. So. But, and then we stopped doing it when all the budget stuff started. I remember maybe around 2010 probably we stopped. I appreciate asking, what year were you there?
2008, 2007 is when I was a part of the program.
Okay.
But speaking personally, though, I thought it was incredibly influential.
Did you like the judge?
I thought he was great.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had a question for Judge Reeds and Judge Bondi. I'm just curious, when you were talking about the opiates and the heroin issues with drug in terms of being in the courts, are you seeing any of the vaping cases coming up? I hear they're moving out in California where there's a lot of vaping of marijuana. And are you beginning to see that trend?
All night about marijuana.
Because that's
If
the
you
new
get a
big...
chance, State Police will give you a presentation on marijuana. And the interesting thing that's going on with marijuana now is the marijuana is measured by the active ingredient of THC. And the more THC, the more potent the marijuana is, and the more hallucinogenic it can be. So, for example, when I was in college in the 1970s, the typical THC rate in marijuana was 1.5%. And now we've gone, as a country, we've gotten very, very good at raising crops, right? And very good at growing things, and we're much more productive than we've ever been. I mean, think about it. You go to Costco, and you get stuff from other parts of the world, and fruits and vegetables all kinds of years. It's amazing. You never saw it when I was a kid. But, so we're very good at growing things. Well, that has transcended into being able to be very good at growing pot, right? So then marijuana creeped up to 12%. Okay, now that it's become legal in some areas, Colorado, Oregon, and a bunch of, and medical marijuana is permitted in 20-some states, they've gotten really good at raising marijuana. And we have marijuana now in the high 20s and going into the 30-some% of pure THC. Now that's just the leaf substance, okay? And all the studies we have are only on as high as 12%. So we don't know what this 28 or 35% rate is doing in the powers of that hallucinogen effect. Then you may have heard, as Maggie's talking about, the vaping, or what they do. A lot of the times you'll see this marijuana oil and stuff, and what they do is they run butane through things. So rather than waste the plants, If you don't smoke the leaves anymore, you take the stalks and stems and the seeds, which used to be, everybody thought was junk, right? Couldn't use that. For years, there was a question of, well, is that possession of marijuana if you had a stalk and a seed, right? Because it couldn't be used. Well, now they gather all that up and they chop it up, grind it up, and they run butane through it, like you get out of your lighter, right? That's why you see in the news sometimes people have grow operations in their house and the houses are catching on fire, right? And so, which is pretty dangerous stuff. I mean, think about running butane through something. Well, what that butane does is it creates an oil or a wax or something of that nature, and then that raises the rate up to like potentially 90% of pure THC, and the product that comes out of that butane that runs through there. And so when you see in the newspaper, like we had in Milford, and the teacher got the brownie in the break room and had a half a brownie and had to go to the emergency room because they were having basically, I don't know if I would call it an overdose, but obviously it was an episode that necessitated medical treatment from a half a brownie because it's so potent, this wax or oil or whatever. And people will use that now in these little vapor cigarettes and drop. And so you don't know how potent something's going to be or not going to be, and that's kind of in flux with the medical marijuana laws that we have now. And so this whole area is an area that's sort of uncharted as well in terms of, you know, the potency of it. The other thing you have to remember is that marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic, which means that the federal government considers it illegal, same as cocaine, same as heroin, same as anything else. Now, many states have made it illegal, and they're not recognizing the federal law, which is a little bit in conflict, although the federal law has not seemed to be interested in pursuing small amounts of use if it's permitted in your state. But you also don't have these types of regulations that you have sometimes with other narcotics where they're watching what the potency is or the control through the FDA and these kinds of things because it's a Schedule I. It's not getting any FDA review or anything to say this is a potency or not the potency. Now, I suspect with the way things are going that we will move in that direction as it seems to be appearing progressively towards more allowed use, whether it be medical or just flat out legal use like you have in Colorado or Oregon and some other states that are trying to pursue that. But it's a very interesting area, and there's a state police lieutenant that gives a presentation on this, and it's really good. I mean, I was just in shock listening to his presentation. So I'd like to think all this was from me, but I learned most of it from him. So.
Thank you, Judge Bondi.
Well, it sounds like marijuana fracking, you know, with them distilling the potency down from stuff that used to be tossed aside. So, yeah. Yeah. You know, that Schedule I thing, it seems like that's been an inhibitor for doing research to find out the, like, physiological ramifications of use as well. So hopefully they'll end up starting to do that because everyone that looks at the medical marijuana aspect of it thinks, you know, someone that's a cancer sufferer that has no appetite and things, why on earth wouldn't you avail them of something that would give them an appetite to sustain their health? If you don't know the entire picture, though, it's sort of, is your judgment really on spot on then? Because if there's other repercussions that this is causing, that unintended consequences sort of from that use, then it wouldn't be helpful.
Unintended consequences now because the other epidemic is pills.
Yeah, right.
Hydrocodone, Vicodin, all these other opiate-based drugs that are a problem, and then people are using those and they can't get any more of their doctors, they can't get any more of their parents' medicine cabinet or whatever, and then that's where they then move a lot of times the heroin, which is actually cheaper today than trying to get the pills. That's another reason why it's become an epidemic. So I don't have the answer to that. We do have an opiate court that deals with that at the court for people that have opiate addictions. It's always a dicey area because I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know for sure what somebody should be on or not on, but generally know they shouldn't be drinking alcohol, taking some benzos and some opiates and smoking a little weed on top of it and trying to function. I mean, not only we see people like that every day, but not only do you wonder what does this do to not only your mental health, right? But what is this doing to your physical health? I mean, your liver, kidneys, heart,
Sure.
all of these things, and so it's problematic.
I can't speak for Judge Bondi or Judge Law, but I would say last year I probably saw 150, maybe 200 people who had a medical marijuana card, one cancer patient. Most of them seem to be 20-year-olds who conveniently have real bad back problems.
Sprained ankle, yeah, right.
And the studies, like Judge Bondi was mentioning in Colorado, they're terrifying. The studies talk about a 12% THC concentration, and the average IQ loss is six points over 2 years of use. So extrapolate that over 30, 40, 50% THC with regular use. I mean, other than just ending up in the emergency room from eating half of a brownie, I mean, that's real. So it's going to get worse. In Colorado, they did a study, think about how many McDonald's and Starbucks locations you see around. In Colorado, between the time they legalized recreational marijuana, the number of dispensaries that popped up is more than all of the combined Starbucks and McDonald's locations across the entire state. So they're everywhere. And that's what's going to happen in Michigan if it gets legal.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. I recommend the state troopers' presentation. It's fine for me.
Yeah, it's a very evolving area, and it's a nice area because there seems to be a growing amount of support that people that want it. So you have to try to figure out how to deal with something constructively that the public's deciding they want. So it's an ever-changing area that we struggle with at the court, to be honest with you. And trying to differentiate, like you indicated, there are people that come down and have legitimate medical uses, and I've seen them, and I've seen a lot of people that have questionable medical issues, and we're in a position, I was a criminal justice major, I'm not a doctor, but you kind of get forced to kind of have to weed through, are you an addict, or are you somebody that needs this in order to lead a better life? And that's kind of difficult. It's just one of the things we do, though. There's some great experts for doing that. We do a lot of analysis, and we'll do a lot of, we send people to certain doctors, addictionologist doctors now, and some people are taking too many pills there. They'll say, do you belong in these pills or not in these pills? Or, you could be on an upper and a downer at the same time, and a pain medicine, and, and all these things together, the cocktail, and try to get them off. A lot of people get on these things unintentionally, they get in trouble, and then we'll work sometimes to try to figure out how to get them off of that in a way that's constructive. I will say one thing, that when people take control of their lives, they become, the best part about the job is when you see them get their life back, when their lives are spinning out of control and they get their life back, that's a very positive thing. We have another positive member of the community then that has something to show for what maybe starts as a negative experience at court turns into a positive experience. I know that's a lot of work and everything else, but nothing comes easily, and we get a lot of that. So when they make their lives better, not only their lives are better, but their families' lives are better, their neighbors' lives are better, our lives are better as their neighbors. And so we work very hard on that. We really do. I mean, this idea that, you do drugs, you go to jail, that isn't happening. We're trying to identify who's got an issue, who doesn't got an issue. Generally, the people who go to jail, I always have said in 14 years, and I don't put anybody in jail, they put themselves there. At some point in time, they don't want to try, or they can't try, or their behavior is just such that they put everybody else at risk, and you're forced with no alternative. But say, you're not going down this path, and you want to continue on a behavior that's dangerous to yourself and others, I mean, you're not leaving any choice. And so we deal with all those things first, and sometimes it's always a last alternative. It's generally not the first alternative. So we have a lot of things to do that, make it a last alternative, because most people, I always say to people that come in, 99% of people who come in the building are good people. They just got some issues that we deal with, like us all.
Sure.
Who doesn't have some baggage, right? Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Keep here till midnight, so.
Now we're used to it.
Well, don't cancel the meetings.
So we've got a presentation from Brett, I don't know how to say your name, Resigan?
Correct. Rasigan. My name is Brett Rasigan. I work with the Oakland County Economic Development Office. I'm not a judge, although I've never spent time in jail, so I probably fall somewhere in between there. My slides today are in the folders that I handed out on the left-hand side of the left-hand side if you'd like to follow along. My plan is to move rather quickly through it, and then if there's time for questions and answers. My part of the planning office provides planning and economic development services to local governments. We work with councils, planning commissions, DDAs. We also work with nonprofits like watershed councils, land conservancies, and trail management organizations. We work in land use and zoning, environmental stewardship, downtown revitalization, and also historic preservation. On the bottom of that slide are 3 of the programs. I'm here to talk about Main Street tonight, but I did leave some materials here about our One Stop Ready program. And our Trail, Water, and Land Alliance is a group of about 200 active participants, government reps, nonprofits, and private sector people that are interested in networking and advancing trail and non-motorized development throughout the county, and also looking at environmental and watershed stewardship. So that may be a group you're interested also. Let's see if I can get this to work. Whoops. Why downtowns are very important. You probably heard the county executive talk about the importance of diversifying the economy. We feel the same way about areas to live and recreate and shop. We have everything in Oakland County, from urban centers to some very pristine environmental areas. This is out in the Shiawassee River Basin in Springfield Township. We look countywide. The county's 900 square miles, and there's probably about 6 or so different development patterns represented in Oakland County. In a broad brush painting of Oakland County, it looks something like that. South Lyon in the far southwestern corner is one of our traditional urban downtowns. Main Street, the reason I'm here tonight, and I need to thank someone before I go any further. It's a program under the county executive, but we have programs like this because of the support of our county commissioners. County Commissioner Weipert reached out to me and asked me to come here tonight and talk to you about Main Street. Main Street changed a little bit. I was speaking earlier to one of the council members, and Main Street changed a little bit about a year or so ago. It used to be very much an all or nothing. We had the one top level of participation, and we broadened that out now to a 3-tier approach. And we did that to encourage more communities to participate, and we think that communities, even at the lower levels, have things to gain from Main Street. Main Street now offers services to historic downtowns, which you are, hamlets, which are small downtowns, the Franklins, the Goodisons, the Lakevilles in Oakland County. And we're also offering assistance to urban mixed-use centers. Wixom, we're working with Wixom in their new town center development, and also Heritage Corridors. We're going to be starting this year to work with Holly and Groveland Township on Dixie Highway, the corridor that runs northwest out of the county. Why do we use Main Street? It's proven. It started around 1980 under the National Trust for Historic Preservation. There's more than 2,000 communities actively participating in 39 states. It's a program that tracks and reports progress. Working for Brooks, that's important. Each year we work with our communities to identify the jobs and businesses that were created through Main Street, and we report that up to the county executive. Since the program started, we're over $700 million in public and private investment, about 7,000 jobs, and almost 1,000 new businesses in our select level towns. Why do communities use Main Street? This is the slide that we ask if we're talking to a council or a DDA or a principal shopping district, that we ask that you reflect on. If these are some of the goals that you have or that your DDA has for downtown South Lyon, then it's likely that Main Street's a good fit for you. Do you want to preserve your architecture? Do you want to adaptively reuse those buildings? Do you want to involve the community and build strong volunteer base? Do you want to expand commercial development, increase residential population downtown? Those are all goals of Main Street. Main Street is a coordinating program. We're the only county-level coordinating program in the nation. Typically, they're at the state level, and what this means is we are the liaison between our local communities that participate in the National Main Street Center. The state now has a Main Street program, and we have a gentleman's agreement that they don't work in Oakland County and we don't work anywhere else in Michigan. So. Through us, we have a contract with the National Main Street Center, and we use that professional services contract to provide assistance to those select level towns. What is Main Street? This is in a very, very small nutshell. Main Street is historic preservation based, community involved, economic development. And by that I mean you preserve your heritage, you involve the community and tap the community as a resource and gather their input. And by economic development, we mean strong jobs and businesses in your downtown. The Main Street approach is a management structure, a management methodology that's built around 4 points: organization, design, promotion, and economic restructuring, or business mix. And what we do with communities is we help a community apply these management techniques to what they're trying to accomplish in their downtown, whether it's business recruitment or a facade grant program or parking analysis. All 4 of these elements come into play whenever you're approaching any of those projects within a downtown. The 3 levels: select level, associate, and affiliate. And the size of the type is meant to tell the story. The select level, we provide the greatest level of service. We provide the pay for the professional services contract to bring the people in from the National Main Street Center. But in turn, it puts the greatest requirement on the local community. Probably the biggest thing is that the community needs to have a full-time, dedicated person to manage their downtown. It's typically a full-time DDA executive director in most of our towns. In the nonprofits, it's a full-time executive director that's managing the nonprofit. Associate and affiliate level is lower level of service and lower level of requirement. For example, at the affiliate level, all we need is a completed application and the designation of a contact person at the city. We need someone that ideally the council and the DDA identify as our point person to work with on the Main Street program. South Lyon certainly would be eligible for select level. It's exactly what Main Street, the traditional Main Street, is designed to address. But what we're recommending to communities that even a community like South Lyon, that they come in at the associate or at the affiliate level. You don't have to like beer, but this allows you to sample Main Street, kick the tires, and then build your capacity to hopefully advance up into the select level. I have, there's the current participation. We have 11 select communities, 3 associates, and 8 in the affiliate level program. So 20, I think 22 altogether currently are involved. My next slides, and I don't think I'll go through this. It's in your booklet, and it's just some selected pages from this document that outlines the services and requirements. And if you glance through this, you'll see there's more X's under the select level and fewer X's under the associate and the affiliates. And I don't know that there's a lot to go through. I don't think I would want to walk through all of the service offerings, but maybe if there's particular questions. One thing that is available to affiliates and associates is the training. The training is offered at no charge. I mean, sometimes we do charge for lunch, but for example, we're having a training program in downtown Farmington. I think it's March 8th, Main Street training program that everyone is welcome to attend, and there's still time to register for that training. I'm going to click to the program entry slide. That's the one where you see the affiliate level, submit an application, and designate a program liaison. For the associate, we ask a little bit more. We want that point person, but then we also want a management organization of some kind to work with. And with South Lyon, it would ideally be the DDA would be that organization that we would work with. I know I went fast, but I think I'll stop it there and entertain questions.
How active was your program with downtown Farmington's redevelopment?
They're one of our select level communities. We're very involved with Annette Knowles, the DDA director in Farmington. Streetscape, we've done design assistance projects for them, help with business recruitment. We work with Annette almost continuously.
Does your program have any, for for lack of better words, I guess, connections or anything like that with like the road commission or anything like that? Are you involved in that aspect of the infrastructure
We
design?
to a degree. For example, in Highland Township through Highland Center, where Milford Road runs south of M59 through that little Highland Center development area, there were plans to widen that road, and we worked with the township and the road commission to kind of keep that road a little bit narrow. We typically, not in all cases, but we typically encourage in the downtown, you got to keep the traffic slow, you got to keep the road tight, and we did work with Annette on that street project.
Last question.
That's
I
a
could ask a ton of questions, but I'll try to limit this. As far as Grand River and downtown Farmington, was your program involved in the redesign of Grand River going through downtown?
We didn't do the design of that, no. They had a
Okay.
consultant do the design work.
All right. Okay, thank you. I'll call you later.
I had an opportunity to speak with John Heine.
Yes.
Yes, and let me tell you, he just raves about this program. He had just the most incredible praises that he could give. He said this is probably one of the most incredible programs that he has seen come along in decades to help revitalize downtowns, and said that the staff that he works with is probably the most top-notch professional staff that he has met in any industry. So John just gave glowing.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well, no, but he did. He said it's a top-notch professional staff of individuals that come with a very
that's-
committed purpose of helping that downtown. One of the things
That's good to hear.
and well, you know, and I've heard it from other communities that I called. I did my own independent research. I knew you were coming on, so I wanted to make some phone calls. One of the things I learned about, and maybe you could just expand a little bit, you provide architectural services?
To the select level, we have a
Select level,
a
okay.
staff architect that does design assistance for local Main Street programs. Now, we do offer preservation assistance, and it's the same person that manages the preservation program as the Main Street design assistant. So Ron, the preservation architect, does do some design assistance in non-Main Street select level towns, so it depends on the nature of the project. But the true building facade design assistance is a select level service. It's by far the most popular and the most sought after service. He's an architect with about 30 years private sector experience, and he prepares preliminary design plans that then the building owner or the developer can then take to the city for at least preliminary approval, and then uses those drawings to hire an architect and prepare construction documents, select level.
One of the things that I also was real impressed with what John was communicating with me is that he said, Maggie, you need to understand, you are paying taxes to Oakland County. And he said, your residents in South Lyon should be benefiting from some of those taxes, and this Main Street program is funded by our taxes that go to Oakland County. So he said, you would be crazy not to take advantage of this program because you're already paying taxes to Oakland County, and this program is funded through that. So I thought that was a good argument to let people know that it would be nice to get some of those tax dollars back into South Lyon that we are, pushing out with property taxes. So
And that's true with all of the services in my part of the office. They're all offered at no charge to the local governments. It's was historically called community assistance, and it started around, 1973, 1974, and I started in 1984 with the county, and we do trail planning and downtown stuff, historic preservation, environmental stewardship. So you're right. It's a resource that communities could take advantage of.
okay, thank you.
I had a couple of questions. First off, the comment I'd like to make is I wish I would have had this matrix to be able to speak a little bit more intelligently or ask more intelligent questions about it, but I'm glad that you have these things so that we can determine the values at each of those levels. Price points are really kind of important in this discussion as well, how much all this stuff costs. And I was glad to hear that that the state's not going to duplicate this activity in Oakland County. I hate that when programs overlap like that. I was wondering, though, the design part of, or the architectural service, is there any ADA compliance assistance, especially with historic downtowns? There's tons of complications that spring from that, and
Ron does. He's knowledgeable at that and knowledgeable with the building code and how there are some exceptions for historic properties related to ADA, but Ron does deal with that, yes. Yeah.
is he good with solutions that are, I mean, rather than pursuing the exceptions, trying to find some solution that goes?
He's very good.
Yeah, good.
Like I said, he 30 years private sector experience, and he loves his job. He's probably one of the people that John's talking about. He just, yes.
Yeah,
he will.
great. I mean, we've got some challenges, but I'm sure that there's other communities that are substantially more encumbered by ADA problems, so okay.
He also has looked at fire suppression systems, because there's some nuances in that regarding historic buildings and
Right.
gathering spaces and old barn structures. So
Right.
he's knowledgeable about that as well.
Oh, terrific. Thank you.
John? Hi, thank you for coming today. Really appreciate it. I think this is a great program and could greatly benefit South Lyon. What I'm focused on is I want to eventually implement this program in our community, and I would be 100% for it. So with that being said, I kind of want to tie in an agenda item we're going to get to later in the evening, but with that being said, I did remember that you said that you have to have a full-time DDA person, correct, or staff dedicated to this program? Okay. And Lynn, I'm pleased to see this is actually perfect timing that tonight we're going to be voting on hiring a full-time person. So that'll have my support as well. So let's say we do move forward with hiring this full-time person and we can dedicate it. And I'm just reading through the steps here of how to proceed. And the step here is we're on number 3, decide if MSOC is right for your community. It sounds like we're leaning, at least have some interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then work with MSOC to complete the application below and submit the application by March 6th. That's where I'm getting at with this.
I think I have the wrong year there. Yeah, that date, ignore the date.
That's okay, but is it still March?
We will be very flexible with that.
Okay.
Date, yes.
So what I'm getting at, though, is Lynn, I imagine if we are to hire a full-time GDA person, I'm not sure if you want, I don't want to jump ahead of the agenda, but if that may take some time, or if you're going to just promote Kelly or whatnot, but can we get I don't want to have to wait, let's say a couple months, or however long it takes to hire that person to get the application going. That's what I'm getting at.
We can start the application and get the affiliate level. Getting beyond the affiliate level without that position filled will be difficult.
Okay.
Because we don't have someone that can dedicate full-time to the downtown and economic development.
Okay, so we could basically start off at the lower levels and then eventually
I
work
would
with
suggest that that's the way to go.
Okay.
To get in, start working with us at the county, get engaged with the program, have the city council DDA start to participate in some of the workshops, so you understand some of the more details of it and work your way up. I think that's the best way to just, it's easy in, and you can start to test the waters.
And my next comment would be, we are having a vision session coming up. What's the date?
19th.
March 19th?
Yes.
Yeah. It would be wonderful if before then we can get the application submitted and perhaps maybe have somebody join us.
Oh, we could be there without the application.
Okay, excellent.
March 19th.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So that was all I had. Thank you.
So I've been aware of this Main Street program for a while, I think. I mean, I've been doing real estate for a long time. We've got some businesses in town. And I know what you said, there were some changes that were made. And it seems like before, there was a little bit of a reluctance on some communities to get involved. I still didn't see the reluctance, I guess, maybe because the benefit is pretty good. But,
It was expensive,
well, yeah.
simple as
And
that.
it was all or nothing.
Right, I understand that, that's what I'm getting at. And so the changes that have taken place has brought this back again, and I've talked to somebody long before this was gonna come up, and Phil, I'm really glad that he decided to talk to somebody as well, because I think this is great timing, because the changes were necessary for communities like us to possibly get involved in something like this, and we need it. You know, I mean, so when you really read what the program's about, yes, it was expensive, but there's a lot of benefit there. And unfortunately, the way it was before made it difficult for communities like us to address it, even though we needed it, you know? I mean, so I'm kind of with Joe here, that I think it's a really good idea to start marching down that line a little bit and getting a little bit involvement, a little bit more discussions, a little bit more involvement in our planning sessions, and get the ball moving a little bit, because I don't see any negative to it. So I'm really glad you came. Wish you'd go a little longer, because I think there's some confusion a little bit on the program anyway. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, so.
there is, there's, at the select level, at the highest level, the county doesn't charge the community for anything. There's no fee at all to participate. The expense comes in that community needing to have that person to manage the downtown.
And money to act with.
What's part
And money to act with.
And typically in DDAs, it's the DDA budget. It's your TIF capture that you use for your budget. Yeah.
That's pretty much already used. That's
Yeah. And some DDAs assess the 2 mills in addition, or have a PSD. Rochester has a DDA and a PSD, Principal Shopping District, for funding. So there are other ways.
I think it's for another discussion for us, but that was with the whole comparison that I've been looking at before I got up here, and you provided us some of that information with the other communities that are surrounding us, and there's such a discrepancy difference in the amount of money that is available, you know, and it makes it difficult for us to kind of do some of the same things for that same reason. And before, the way it was, almost impossible. So
the city's DDA is I think appropriately rather compact and focused on the down. There are some DDAs that are very, very, very large and go beyond the limit of it.
Do you have a business card?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I was hoping we could get your phone number.
when was that date again? For
Thank
the
you so
planning-
much.
The planning session that was in Farmington?
Thanks, Brad.
March 8th.
March 8th.
March
yeah.
8th.
Thank you.
Could you leave her one as well? I can pass that on to her. Thank you. If we were to get a seasoned DDA director, our new economic development director comes in with past experience and already is familiar with your program and might be able to light things up more quickly, do you still see us being better value at starting at an affiliate to just get our
I think I'd start at the associate and affiliate. It doesn't mean that after 9 months or a year, you wouldn't come up. But I seriously think it's worth it to, especially for the elected officials, to get a feel for what
familiarize
it's
ourselves
about.
with
I think
everything.
it's
Yeah,
important.
that makes
I think
sense.
that was part of the failing of the way we did it before, where it was the all or nothing. I mean, it was a leap. It's a big application process. We look for resolutions of support from all the boards and commissions. You know, we compare the DDA activities to your master plan. The full levels are much more intense.
Luckily, we're actually really positioned right now to act like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing a lot of the things already, so, yeah. Well, that's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Old business? Nothing there pending? So news business, my mouth is dry. So we have quite a few of these. We're at that time again. Reappointment and appointment of members to the city boards and commissions. So with that, I also want to commend some of these people because it takes a lot of personal time of theirs. People don't think it takes a lot of effort, but it sure does. And I'm glad that these people are stepping up and are wanting to stay in the positions that they're in. I really appreciate it. So before we get started, I wanted to say that. So with that, we have Planning Commission reappointment for a 3-year term for a few people. Michelle Berry, Keith Bradley, and Stephen Mosier, and they've all been well positioned here before, and I'm glad they're wanting to do it again. So with that, I'd like to,
You want to do them one at a time? You want to do them one at a time?
I thought we would do one board
Commission
commission
at
at
a
a
time,
time.
I'll
Okay.
support
yeah, do
those.
one group at a time.
All right, you
Yeah,
got support down there.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So we have the Zoning Board of Appeals reappointments for 3-year term. 2 people, same thing. Mike Joseph and Stephen Moser.
I'll support.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to add, it's also a pleasure sitting with the two gentlemen on the ZBA.
Okay, we have the Parks and Rec Commission reappointments. Mike Orlando, Diane Beagle, and Denise Semyon.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Historical Commission reappointments for a 3-year term. Linda Ross.
Support. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cable Commission reappointment for 3 years. Daniel Pelchat.
I'll support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to say something about Daniel. I've known him since he was a really little guy, and he probably doesn't want me to say this, but I've watched him grow, and I'm pretty impressed with his enthusiasm and his I don't even know the word. He's so engaged with this cable that it's nice to see someone local from the community stepping up and taking his turn now as he's gotten older. So I'm very happy that he's wanting to do this again. So. Housing Commission.
DDA.
Where am I at?
F, DDA.
Get ahead of myself. Downtown Development Authority, 3-year term. Tracy Hill.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cultural Arts Commission, 3-year term.
Mr. Mayor, got to abstain from voting?
For this one? Okay.
I'll
3-year
second
term.
it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kelly Smith, Ken Mahalik, and Cheryl Smith.
I think we just did that one?
Yeah,
We just did it.
Housing Commission, I think.
Sorry, you guys are confusing me here. Okay, Housing Commission, 3-year term, Judith Waters.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Tax Board Review and Appointment for a 3-year term.
Mr. Mayor, the charter in Chapter 7, Section 7.6, provides that the Board of Review will be 3 members. 1 member will be appointed in January for a term of 3 years, meaning that they'd be staggered. So of these 3 members, you should designate 1 to be a 1-year, 1 a 2-year, and 1 a 3-year term.
Well, I didn't have much chance to look at this because I got this just before the meeting, so.
Well, why don't we just put them in the order that they were proposed? Bruce for 3, Frank for 2, and Mrs. Lyons for 1.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So we'll put Bruce Nussbaum for the 3, Frank Fogarty for the 2, and Luann Lyon for the 1.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for helping us out.
The other question about the Housing Commission that came up before, about the
Which?
stepping down, is that gonna come up? Do you have anything for that?
On the BOR. Bruce has asked Bruce was just reappointed. The other 2 chose not to be reappointed. their terms were expired.
Right, but we didn't get a letter or anything, they just expired.
Everyone
They
was,
just
everyone was
expired.
contacted
Okay.
and given the opportunity to
Okay.
be reappointed. Ramona has actually moved out of the community, and the other gentleman chose not to resubmit.
Okay.
We have how many members now?
Three,
Three.
which is the maximum.
Okay, under new business, number 2, resolution establishing policies and guidelines for granting exemption from payment of property taxes.
Turn this over to city clerk.
In 2008, council adopted a resolution establishing policies and guidelines for granting exemption from payment of property taxes, which incorporated and adopted by reference the federal poverty income standards set by the United States Office of Management and Budget. And this is just a resolution that we pass every year.
Move that we approve the resolution establishing the policies and guidelines for granting exemptions from payment of property taxes.
I'll support that.
Discussion? The only thing that I wanted to do is just to bring to your attention, for whatever it's worth, is that I used to review commercial documents for a bank. I did commercial lending. And there's a difference here when, in number 6, it says all applicants must submit a copy of the prior year's federal income tax return, citizen homestead, et cetera, is that when you're reviewing documents, there's always that minute distinction between submitting a prior tax return, submitting a prior tax return that's been signed, and submitting a prior tax return that's been signed and filed. So you haven't really added, it's ever how you want to clarify it, but sometimes people will submit documents that haven't been signed or haven't been filed. I'm just letting you know from my experience. And it doesn't really require that. It just says, a lot of people go, sometimes prepare taxes, don't get them filed, don't sign them, get them amended. You don't get the amended return, you get the first return, you get changes. I'm just bringing that if you think that's an issue. Fine, if not, I just thought I would bring it up to your attention, that's all.
It should be the document that was submitted to the feds, not something that you just filled out and that never went anywhere.
Right, that's why you say signed
Absolutely,
and,
right.
signed and filed. But,
There was also, this last go-around, there was a complication with Oakland County's HUD, imposing the HUD specs into the discussion at the last Board of Review that complicated the matter of, that we've kind of gotten ourselves into. I'd like us to actually take a look at what the criterion for that are and what those thresholds are, so that we could actually make a decision whether or not we wanted to adopt those rates, what the county uses, or if we wanted to remain at these rates, which is what we've had for, what did you say, 2008? Yeah, so that this is just a discussion for something in the future, but I'd like us to actually take a look at that, just to determine what the distinction is and see if it's a good fit for us.
Mr. Mayor? I could, I kind of feel like I'm becoming the resident expert on Board of Review, because I looked at all the statutes that were here, and I think that the statute requires, you could probably clarify this for me, Tim, is that the statute requires that you cannot go any lower than the federal poverty rate. So we could not pick a rate of income that's lower than the poverty rate, but we can pick an income that's higher than the poverty rate. So that poverty rate is your baseline that you work with from year to year. And I'm confused because we don't really say, unless it comes out in other material, the resolution doesn't really say what that income level is. So for this year, I don't know what the federal poverty rate is, and I don't know whether we are falling, you know what I'm saying?
I can answer
Oh,
that.
okay.
We actually have the printout from the federal government that goes along with the application. So when they get the application, they can look and whoever's filling out the application can see the guidelines.
Okay, so it is documented somewhere? in the
Yes.
Okay,
It
all
goes
right,
along right with the application.
okay, thank you. Yeah,
Mr. Mayor? To address Councilmember Kurzweil's comment, the 6A could be revised to federal income tax return 1040 or 1048, signed and filed, and any amended returns for that tax year would essentially be.
Well, I think it should apply to all of them, A, B, and C.
Yeah, you have this, the homestead property tax is another thing. I mean, that's another form and the general homestead property claim. I mean, those are all forms, I've seen them in real estate closings where they're not accurate, they're not right. People just put in anything, and sometimes they get filed and sometimes they don't. I just thought I'd add a little bit of clarification there, if you,
And there is, I did remember reading, there is I don't have it right at my fingertips here, but I do remember seeing that there is a provision where the Board of Review could request additional information based on an application.
That's also in the application.
okay.
Just one more quick comment. That was one of the things that struck me as kind of unusual, because this last go-around also brought forward the fact that application, there were things that were asked for that there was no place on the application to provide that information for.
We have a new application,
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
much more detailed,
That's important.
very specific as to the spouse's information, the person filling out the application, their information, current, past. We're very, very,
Great. Problem solved then.
Yes,
That's good.
problem
Thank you.
This is excellent.
Thorough.
This is excellent.
So back to my motion to approve the resolution, I guess we'll, as amended, to include that information for 6A, B, and C, as that was indicated before.
I support that. Still.
Motion, and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just. Because there got to be signature.
Do we vote on that?
Yes.
Oh, missed it. Sorry.
Okay, consider approval for Longevity Foundation 5K Walk Run. You have someone here?
Hi, I'm Julie Elkin. Sorry I lost my voice today. So I will help
Perfect
you
timing.
if I can. Thank you for having us. My husband 5 years ago was diagnosed with lung cancer at 40 years old. He's a non-smoker. It was a shock to us. He had surgery and he is cancer-free, thankfully. During that 5 years, we didn't know how to connect with, other cancer survivors. We didn't take any opportunities to go back to the Carmano Center through the last 5 years. So a year ago, I was looking, found this longevity 5K walk in Ann Arbor, and I read a story of another woman who had lost her husband after 8.5 years at 42 years old of non-smoking, stage 4 lung cancer. We were very touched and very moved. So as a surprise, as a celebration, I created a team of 50 people of local friends and neighbors, family. We went to Ann Arbor, did the 5K, and then we hosted a thank you party at our house, and it was truly one of the best days of our lives. My husband, who couldn't be here today, said at the end of the day or the next day, the only thing that would have made it any better is that we could have it here in South Lyon. There's another family that's hosting this, that hosts this with Longevity, which is the nationally largest lung cancer-focused nonprofit organization from Chicago. So this year, my husband is partnering with them to host the event. And instead of Ann Arbor, they asked us, or they offered us, to have it here. So we are coming to you to ask you if we can have it here.
So basically, it would just be no road closures, it would just be the 9-mile crossing for the bike trail?
That's correct, and the organizers have agreed to pay the overtime for the police officer necessary for the 9-mile crossing. The other two would be staffed by volunteer crossing guards who would have the authority to stop runners, not to stop traffic.
Okay. And then you want McCaddy Park, the pavilion?
Yeah, so I've contacted them. I don't know if you've seen our path, but we walked the path on Sunday, and originally I'd wrote down that we wanted to start at McCaddy, go through the trail, basically to 8 Mile, and we actually mapped it out, and we got to Volunteer Park, and we had to turn around. So I was really bummed about. I love that beautiful path down to 8 Mile. But it would be too far. So we actually stop at Volunteer, like where the fence is or where the fence ends, and then we have to turn around and come back. But we felt like it was a beautiful, safe walk. The only crossing is that McMunn, Princeton, and Hidden Creek, and then the officer at 9 Mile. So we'll have volunteer crossing guards at the 2 minor crossings.
Have you contacted Southline Area Recreation Authority to book the pavilion? You'll
Yes.
want to do that to make sure that you got it.
I did.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, I'll make the motion, then we approve the Longevity Foundation 5K walk run on
April 16th.
April 16th.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, this is a good
Great-
fit.
great cause.
Good fit
Glad.
for your cause, that's great.
I do want to say one thing, that my husband, it was caught due to early detection. If you have a chance, just ask your doctor for a chest x-ray for everybody. It saved him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
You're up.
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council, this should be a pretty straightforward one. So essentially, a computer from the year 2000 crashed, which is somewhat expected. It's the throttle control for the ladder truck. It just was working, and then we were doing our regular operational check on it, and it completely crashed. The manufacturer no longer supported it. In fact, they got out of making the throttle control, so we were stuck with a new one. The initial estimate was under $5,000. Of course, got in and became more complicated, and it pushed it over the $5,000 mark. The final quota, or the final cost, came to that $6,257.80. The rig is back. It's in great shape. We've got a brand new throttle on it. Fully expect that this throttle will carry us for the rest of the service life of the rig, which we're hoping to be at least another 7 years. So
Some of the dates on these documents were a little bit silly.
When I was out
February
of town,
8th.
When I was out of town for the conference, Mike put it in the hanging box outside of my office. Lisa didn't realize that when she was putting the agenda packet together for the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
And so it didn't make it on that agenda.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking this is kind of an important thing, and it's kind of lingering.
yeah, we went ahead and did it, I guess. But it was one of those purchases that having the rig, the aerial ladder would have worked, but the pump wouldn't have. So we were at about a 50% capacity. So it really wasn't a repair we had a whole lot of choice with.
Certainly,
so.
right. It's funny that with it being a computer, it seems like there'd be an app on your phone for it.
One would hope, but yeah, unfortunately.
Well, I'll make the motion that we pay for the repairs to ladder one in the amount for $6,257.80 as performed by R&R Fire Truck Repair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Consider approval for creation of the new salaried non-exempt position of Economic Development Downtown Development Director. Lynn?
Okay, this is something that I had brought to the council last year during the budget process. It did not make it, excuse me, forgive me, I'm still fighting a respiratory thing. did not make it through the budget process for approval to hire a full-time person to do economic development and run the DDA. We hired Kelly to do community development. She's running the planning department, getting that up and ready. The main priority I have her working on is getting us ready to be a one-stop ready shop, which, as you saw on the county's information, is one of their goals. What that means is basically a planner or a architect, a builder, a business goes to one point of contact with the city and is able to get all of their processes through the city within less than 30 days from start to finish for anything that doesn't have to go to the Planning Commission or the Board of Zoning of Appeals. That's getting all of their site plans approved, all the administrative approvals, building permits issued, and ready for inspections, all within less than 30 days. That's what one-stop ready means. Kelly's working on that. She's doing very good. She's getting the new master plan ready. And so she is not able to move to a full-time position. She has family commitments that keep her from doing that. This position will manage the economic development activities of South Lyon, not just for the downtown, but for all of South Lyon. I think that's very important, especially if we're looking, as we've talked about, creating a commercial rehabilitation district, which encompasses all of our business districts, because this person will be able to take local, state, county, federal programs and implement them to help all of the businesses. And we'll be able to focus on really helping and meeting with the businesses and be that point of contact, as well as being the Downtown Development Authority director. I did a comparison of job descriptions for similar positions around the state as well as around the local area. I used those for the creation of the job description, which you have in your packet. I also used a phone and email survey statewide to come up with the salary matrix that I provided you as the potential salary matrix. This is not a entry-level position. This is not something for someone who has just a high school diploma. We would be looking, if they don't have a college education, if they haven't been working in the field for several years, they're not going to be somebody that's really going to make the cut for this position. We would be looking potentially to possibly poach an existing economic and DDA director from another community or even the county to fill this position, someone that lives in this area, that doesn't want to commute to Pontiac, but has the experience and the connections, which is why I wanted to create a salary matrix and a salary range that gives us that broad range to find someone with the experience to hit the ground running.
I have two questions.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with the structure of the DDA. Is the city employee always the executive director?
In most communities, yes.
Okay. And the DDA doesn't elect their own director from their own ranks?
The city manager has typically been that.
That's what I didn't know. My second question, then, thank you, is that how are you going to pay for it?
Are we going to pay for it? It's going to have to start coming out of the general fund, out of our fund balance as a start, and then hopefully by increasing the tax base, increase the economic base, by the creation of the commercial shopping district, be able to do it through the funds that are generated from the increase in the tax revenues from bringing new businesses into the community.
So if we pass this tonight, when will we see a budget amendment?
You will see a budget amendment most likely the second meeting in March, because that'll give me time to figure out all the budget amendments for the general fund that we need to do, and it would include that, and it would also give us time to start the hiring process and give us an idea of where we are looking at in terms. I'd like to have a position.
In March, will you know what pay level you're going to hire this person?
No, I won't know that until we finish the hiring process. So the
So then the budget amendment should be concomitant with the hiring process, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all.
I spoke before about when I suggested that we hire the part-time employee about being business smart. And of course, everything's going to cost. Has a cost. But if we're going to bring in grants or we're going to bring in another business, as you said, that's going to increase the tax value, that's business smart because we're having a net bringing in money as opposed to how much it's costing for the salary. So I have confidence in you, Lynn. I think that you know how to manage the people in the office, and if you need help, I think we should take that request very seriously. So from that aspect, I'm 100% for this. The other aspect I have feeling is that maybe last year when this wasn't approved, we were under a different direction, and the direction of the council wasn't taking the downtown improvement very seriously. Now that we have a new mayor, new council, I think we need to invest and make that next step. So with that being said, I think this is a great hire. I'm looking forward to who eventually you hire, getting to know them, working with them. And just so I'm clear, for the education requirements, what is that going to be?
Minimum of an associate's degree with 1 to 3 years experience. Preferably a bachelor's degree with certified economic development certification and 1 to 3 years experience. But we will have to see what the pool of candidates are. If we could get someone that has their master's degree and the CECD certification, that would be great. But again, it's going to depend on what the pool of candidates are.
Okay. And I think this is a great opportunity for anybody watching that may want to apply and thinks they have what it takes. There's a lot of work we need, but it'll be a good stepping stone to really make our city to the next level. So thank you for bringing this before us.
John? Oh, I'm sorry.
Before this person is hired, is there any way we could see what their credentials are
Certainly.
before we actually, I think it'd be, just so I'm clear, it'd be you making the actual decision to hire. But before we get to that step, can we just see the credentials of the person that you're looking at?
Certainly.
So we can review it? Okay,
Once
thanks.
we've narrowed it down to maybe the final 2 or 3 candidates.
Perfect.
Provide that information to the council.
Perfect, thank you.
Good question.
With the idea, I like the matrix that your pricing or potential costing would end up allowing. And I like the idea of, the master's degree and all that kind of stuff, but I'm actually much more interested in someone that's got a track record of actually performing this job at a satisfactory level to a community already. So the education aspect of that, to me, is much less important than someone that has actually brought some value to the communities that they've worked at. So I hope that that's weighed in there strongly. So, obviously, a good education is always a great tool to have, but someone that actually gets stuff done, in my view, is much more valuable to this community than someone that has an education that they could if they were motivated. So,
Well, that's why the matrix does include a line for someone that doesn't have a college degree,
Exactly.
but has years of experience in doing this job.
precisely. And that was kind of my roundabout way of
Very good
outlining
statement.
that.
The track record is very, very important.
Yeah.
Especially now for us. It's,
Because those people already have the narrative to be able to get buy-in in the community as well. All the merchants and things will want to end up seeing this as the go-to person. They've got a question. They're looking for assistance in some regard. It'll be a lot easier for someone that's been there and done that than it will be for someone that read a book about doing it. So.
I also support this position. I support anything that assists the downtown and any of the revitalization efforts. I did have an opportunity to speak with John Heine, as I said earlier. He is the executive director over in the principal shopping district over in Birmingham. And he commends you, by the way, of stepping up and and pushing this particular job description forward. He just thinks that you are just on the right track. You've got a great vision for this. We spent about 45 minutes on the phone, and he was gracious with his time. He was just a phenomenal resource, and the door's open if you ever want to call him. But he said that this position is critical for revitalizing the downtown, and he just wanted to make sure that I let everybody know that this was a very smart move on your part to bring this forward. I also think, too, that I have to agree with you. This is not an entry-level position. I don't care if they have 2 years' experience and they've done a fantastic job. I'm looking for somebody that's got a winning track record over a period of time that has, because nobody in 2 or 3 years has had all the experience that one's going to have for this particular job. And that's about, I'm talking about reviewing contracts, having the contacts that are needed with Oakland County. That is the critical thing he conveyed to me, is that this person that you get, if you can get the max on here, will bring to the table contacts that you've never seen before to help you with your downtown. So I want to commend you on the 7 years experience, because that tells me that we are really going to get committed in terms of filling this job. You know, frankly, I'm tired of taking a back seat to these other communities, and I think what you've done is you've stepped up the game, and you've said, you know what, we are going to get somebody highly qualified that's going to come in here and is going to help us with this community. And you are absolutely right, 100%, when you said, I need somebody to come in here that is going to start the job on day one. This is not an entry-level job. This is not even a 2 or 3 year job. This is somebody who can come in here and take over on day one, literally. So I think your matrix is right on. So thank you.
With that, I make the motion that we approve the, let's see, the creation of the non-union salaried position of Economic Development DDA Director.
Second.
Motion, we have a couple seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Question. Obviously, we want to hire somebody as soon as possible, but can you kind of take us through the high-level timeline of what you're thinking?
I will draft the help wanted ad tomorrow, get it to the South Lyon Herald, get it on the Michigan Municipal League website. There is a downtown website for people that are part of the downtown development authorities. I don't know if we can get it on there. I was checking out their classifieds. I think it's only open to members, so we may have to join that organization in order to advertise, but that's for people that are already in the field of doing economic development and downtown development. That'd be a great resource. And then a last opportunity would be to advertise nationally on the ICMA website and possibly bring somebody in. That way we could make it open to people from all over the country, or the west part of the state, the northern part of the state, people that have done this in Michigan or Chicago, Cleveland, that are looking to relocate because of other reasons, want to come back home.
Well, I'm pretty confident the word's going to get out really quick. So if people want to submit, let's say, an application, a resume, would they email to you, or how would they go about doing
Resume and cover letters would come to me.
Okay, could you share your, I know what it is, but share your email address?
Sure, my email address is lladner, so LLADNER @southlyonmi.org.
Looking forward to this, thank you.
Sorry, I'm fighting the same. Everybody seems to have.
Keep my distance.
So consider approval of increase of longevity pay rates for the non-union employees.
Okay, this is something that I wanted to get finalized before we open the POLC and POAM contracts. Our non-union employees currently are not on the same longevity bonus pay rate as all of our union employees. The union employees in their last round of negotiations all received an increase in their longevity pay. What I would like to do is bring the non-union employees up to the same salary level so that when I open the new contracts, everybody's playing on the same playing field, and that's one less thing that I have to worry about negotiating for anyone, union or non-union. It basically is a creation of moving our non-union salaried employees that have 5 years. They currently receive $600. The clerical and AFSCME employees receive $700. The non-union salaried employees at 10 years are at $900. All other unions are at $1,000. The non-union for 15 years receive $1,200. All other unions receive $1,300. And for 20 years of service, non-union salaried employees receive $1,500. All of the other union employees receive $1,600. So I'd like to just bring the non-union salaried employees up to a parity of $700, $1,000, $1,300, and $1,600 for those respective years.
I'll make the motion that we approve, oh, go ahead.
Maggie had a
Oh,
comment.
I'm sorry.
I had a question. When you say longevity pay, is this a yearly pay?
This is a one-time bonus. When they hit 10 years of service, 5 years
Oh.
of service.
On those landmarks,
15 years
yeah.
of service, 20
Okay.
years of service.
Okay.
So it's a one-time bonus.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, I think, Lynn, you really stated it well, and you said try to put it on the same field. I mean, I've talked to other people in different industries where they may be non-union, and there's union employees, and there's maybe some, I don't want to say jealousy, but, you look at them, it's maybe not always fair. So any attempt we can to make all the employees kind of improve their job is great. So I think this is wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, now I'll make the motion to approve the increase in longevity pay for non-unionized employees to $700 for employees with 5 years service, $1,000 for employees with 10 years of service, $1,300 for employees with 15 years of service, and $1,600 for employees with 20 years of service.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did want to clarify, the police chief just clarified, I did not realize, obviously I haven't been here long enough, the union employees actually get that longevity pay every year, so the non-union employees would as well then.
Okay.
More like it.
That's on an anniversary date then?
Yes, it's on their anniversary date of employment.
Okay, set city council meeting dates for 2016.
Okay, this is just a formality as part of state regulations to make sure that we post and notice all of our proper meeting dates. The city posts that we meet on the second and fourth Mondays, but the specific dates, it's always good to post and look at. In December, the fourth Monday is the 26th, which is going to be a city holiday. So we would need to approve moving that meeting to Tuesday, the 27th, because the city would obviously be closed for the holiday on the 26th. And so it would be a simple motion of just approving the dates for the regular council meeting on the second and fourth Mondays of each month, with the exception of December 26th, which would be rescheduled to December 27th.
And when you post that, you post
We post the exact
all the dates too?
Yes.
With it?
And that also allows
Make
us to
that
update
motion
the city
then.
calendar.
I'll support.
A motion and a support, all in favor?
I'd like to make a comment. This is the silliest waste of time I can imagine. I mean, the second and the fourth Monday, but I'm not going to hold anything up. It's just that this is just silly. I mean, for the state to impose this on communities for something as mundane as when we schedule our meetings, everyone has complete prior notice to all this stuff, so it seems like a big waste of time for the state to be involved in something like this.
I kind of had the same thought, but I've gone beyond that now, so it's kind of.
Yeah.
Well, also, John, if I may, since we are talking about the dates,
This is a waste of time.
no, I don't see, I'm sorry, do you have something to add? No. Okay. Since we are talking about the dates, do we plan on attending the 27th because traditionally in the past,
Reeds did this past,
I know,
December.
but my preference would be that we do have it, so I just want to make sure.
I will tell the council, I plan to be out of town on the 27th of December this year. I did not go back to see my extended family for the Christmas holidays last year, and I will be this year. So I would not be in attendance on the 27th.
We could probably do a meeting without you.
I plan on attending either way. But I just wanted to talk about it, because if we're talking about the dates, I figured it was pertinent to conversation.
Planning on it, just so far in advance. You don't know. So,
Okay.
We might not have one of the other ones too if something came up, so.
all right, we have a motion to support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So this is, we come to this point where we have the discussion on blight and unsafe structures, also the downtown. I know I don't have a whole lot to say in this tonight. I think we've covered quite a bit.
And I have a comment. The only comment I would offer is that we've already passed the blight ordinances. Why don't we take that off the discussion, off the agenda? We shouldn't put something on here and keep it in perpetuity.
Not without it being a changing environment, certainly, right.
And we can always put it back on if we have a topic of discussion.
For blight,
Yeah.
not just the downtown. The downtown still.
My comments are on number 4, discussion on blight ordinance and unsafe structure. That's been on our agenda now for how many meetings? I think these things should be done individually, meeting by meeting, not put on and kept on for
Well, I
the,
think the reasoning for it was on there in the first place has really proved its purpose. I mean, up to this point, because it wasn't being talked about and discussed. And I agree with you now, we kind of are at that point where we have come to some resolution and come to some changes and some adjustments that were necessary. So, yeah,
we did what we said we were going to do.
I really don't have a problem with that. And it can come back up again as a standing topic.
Yeah, when something
When
changes.
something changes. Thank you.
The only comment that I would have on the blight ordinance and unsafe structures, I just wanted to let Lynn know, in Dearborn, what they do is they do what's called a blight run. Once a month, they go out in their community and they take down addresses of buildings that are being considered or whatever. And they also elicit feedback from the community, where they just sort of email in or call in and say, you know, does this particular structure fit within the blight ordinance, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if you want to actively engage in that so that the community is involved, but that's what Dearborn does in order to stay on top of property that maybe they're not necessarily informed of. And they look for feedback from the community. Because I don't know if we've even started on working on any, because I have 2 structures I'd like to submit, with respect to taking a look at.
I can reach out to Dearborn and find out exactly what structure they use for the community feedback and
Okay.
pass this on to Tom.
Yeah, and then, whatever suggestions you have about it, but I just thought I'd bring that up under the blight ordinance, so.
Tom Lyons is always very receptive to those phone calls. I mean, he can actually review them without any special ordinance that would allow that kind of stuff.
Right, she's just talking about, a form maybe that we put on the website that people can use to send in specific blight concerns.
Something like our phone number where they could actually call.
Well, if you're going to look into, that'd be great to hear what kind of feedback you get. And in my perspective, it's worth keeping it as a discussion, since that may be some good points that come out of Maggie's request.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
I think we could put that topic.
Well, once I talk to Dearborn, why don't I put together a memo and we can just put it as a topic at an individual meeting?
I kind of agree with Harvey to a certain point. A lot. It took a lot to get this to the table in the first place, and then we've really gone around quite a bit on this. And I think we're all on the same page, and we all have addressed it. and some things are getting done. And that's what we were looking for to happen. And so having it as a running topic as blight, just to talk about it, I don't believe is going to be as necessary just to have it sitting there all the time. It can come up as needed, as brought up, but it doesn't need to be part of the downtown portion anymore because we already have addressed many of those items. And so I think that my idea would be to remove the blight portion from the standing topic.
So do we have a consensus to remove blight
Yeah.
as a recurring
Yeah,
topic?
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, if something changes, we can always address it. But I need to just comment on what I see as a mischaracterization that, that suddenly we're all moving forward and this is being solved. This is all, I mean, all the stuff that's finally come to fruition was stuff that was put in place, and it just takes time for stuff to actually get completed. Well, it keeps being kind of offered up as though, since the election, that all of a sudden we're finally getting our game together, and it's just.
That's not coming from me on purpose. I'm tired of the negative connotations and the comments that have been placed on this council and people out in the community that aren't hearing the good things that are going on. And I feel as though that we need to say some of those things because they're not being said. And so if I come off that way, I apologize for that, but I'm trying to support what we're doing as a group. And yes, we're kind of finishing what was started, but it needed to happen, quite frankly. And
This was always the intention. I mean, right where we're at right now. So.
I could argue that a little bit in the past, but I won't. So, and it's not directed toward you. So, I mean, it's just, I feel as though that, Harvey, come on. The positive stuff has to come out. The negative, and it's the reason why I'm talking right now. I'm tired of hearing the negative comments from so many people that aren't hearing what's being really done. And yes, we're finishing what was started. And yes, some of these things that weren't as a standing item on the agenda needed to be there so we could start maybe proving to ourselves that we really are committed to this. And I feel as though we are. So that's the reason why I made the statement that I made. And that's the reason why I feel as though that at this point in time, blight could probably be removed from a standing topic because we are addressing it. And as it comes up, we will talk about it, as we should. So that's my statement for that. And we've all had a consensus with this, I think, to remove it.
Well, I tend to see a lot of things getting done, especially since November, and I don't think it's any coincidence that it's happening now.
Oh, my God. Who made no, seriously, who made the motion at the last meeting, or brought up the whole hiring the economic development director? It was me, and I was on the council before last November. So I don't,
You
I
were
mean,
just
it's
swayed
just,
by the
I'm getting
election.
to the point now where, you're trying to put everything that happened negatively on the past council, but if I recall correctly, I believe you were on the past
Well, there's a
council.
lot of positive things that have happened. I don't know why you're coming at me like this.
No,
I don't
because you
see-
make it a point.
Why
Joe,
you're-
you
why
make
you're-
it,
why-
no,
you
seriously.
want credit for putting
No,
that on?
No,
That's
no, you know
fine.
what?
You
This
did a
is
great
brought
job.
up. No, this was brought up. The point is, let's just move forward. Let's
I've
quit
been saying
bring,
it
no,
all
no, no.
along.
Let's quit bringing up November as the changing of the guard.
Yeah, all the
All
innuendo.
right? Let's
to
just
the
stop it.
past,
I
right.
didn't make the comments.
You did today.
I didn't make the comments, no.
You did today about you bringing up November with a new election, and everyone was being brought up. The point is, we're moving forward. We were moving forward. Let's just continue moving forward and quit bringing it
I
up.
think we're on the same page.
All right?
Let's
We're on
leave
the
it
same
at
page.
that.
All right, let's go.
Jeez.
That's what I was trying to get across to you.
Discussion of the downtown.
Yes, I had a comment.
Maggie.
I had an opportunity to speak with Kathy Crawford, and she is our state rep, and had a great conversation with her. Once again, Lynn, she is highly congratulatory to you. I discussed with her a little bit about the DDA and some of the things, and she just applauds you and met you and invites you, as you know, to Lansing. One of the things that I heard when I contacted people at sort of trying to get my hands around this position that you were proposing is a lot of people were talking about that the legislature in Lansing was hinting, and I want to say that very carefully, hinting at maybe sunsetting DDAs and removing TIF funding at some point. So I asked her about that, and I'm not a spokesperson for Kathy, so I don't want anybody misrepresenting what I'm saying, when they report anything. I'm not her spokesperson, but she conveyed to me that the DDAs would have an advocate in her in terms of keeping DDAs in place and not allowing TIF funding to decline or go away. We had a great discussion on the value of DDAs and TIF funding, that it's done a lot to keep downtowns active, that you would go back to these ghost towns if you remove the DDAs and the TIF funding. So if you have an opportunity, you have a legislator that is on your side and very highly committed, and I explained to her I would carry the message for you then to develop the relationship with her, so you have a legislative assistant to assist you, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, DDAs would become extinct if TIF went away. I mean, there would be virtually no reason for them to be organized like that.
I think I'm going to let Abe say something since he's on one of the committees, so.
Just real quick, Abraham Abe, 21962 North Line Trail. Harvey made a great comment regarding how are you going to pay for that person. This is a business, no different than any other, so you got to remember, it's like, yeah, we can say your businesses are going to pay for this person, but in reality, will it? I don't want to have you hire somebody. My concern is take one step forward and then a year down the road, take two steps back because the money's not there. Maybe one thing you need to consider, and again, I'm just learning as I'm going. I had talked to Brett 2 weeks ago from Oakland County because I have a lot of questions regarding the DDA. One thing is, ours is by statute, I believe, where now the newer ones are sunset. So if you want to make the downtown bigger, you would need to have an agreement with Oakland County, which may work, because if you do make it bigger, now we have more tax dollars. The DDA, if we have money, could help pay for that person. Again, this is just, food for thought for you guys to maybe approach Oakland County to see what we could do, that's all. Because you have to develop a way to pay for it. Right now, from what I saw, our DDA, before we put pen to paper, is $3,000 in the red before we do one promotion, anything. So there is no money for the DDA currently. So we'll have some in a few years when the parking lot's paid for. Right now it's $35,000 a year. We're collecting $32,000. Which is, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We have a nice reserve, which is what we're using, but we're like the federal government. We're operating in the red, which is not a good idea for anything, but if we did make it larger and the sunset agreement was good and we have money coming in, then maybe the DDA could help pay for that person also. That's all I'm suggesting. And the only other thing is, maybe some of you don't realize, the downtown's not broke. It could use some improvement. And when I sit here, I see, you don't think it comes across as negative, but it does. I've been out here 17 years. It's great downtown. Kids went to school out here. It's a great community. Just be careful what we say. You are on camera. You keep planting a seed long enough, it's going to grow, whether it's positive or negative. That's all. Thanks.
No, Abe, those are good points because that's the point I've been trying to make. It's just that there's a lot more positive going on than people are saying. And it has been too, as you said. And I've talked with Lynn about this myself, and it's like it kind of drives me nuts because I'm not wired negative. And I've had businesses downtown, and I live downtown, Glenville's downtown. And so we understand it too. And there's so much positive that comes with businesses closing, new ones moving in. They make some changes and adjustments that maybe the older businesses didn't do. No one even talks about that. They just talk about who's now moving out, who's doing this. And I agree with you 100%, Abe. I have to keep banging that down. I don't care how boring it is. We've got to talk more positive about the good things that are happening because the negative connotations and the stuff that's being said is far overweighing the good that's actually happening. And we need to get together here and stop the little bickering that's going on as well because that doesn't bode well. like Mike says, it's time to move on. Let's move on and let's get things going in the right direction. We're supposed to lead, let's lead right. You know, and put personal aside. Whatever happened in the past has happened in the past. Can't undo anything. You can't change it, even if you want to or you don't. Doesn't matter. That's the same thing the way for the city needs to move. We're on this agenda now, and yes, we are addressing issues that were being addressed before, but we're in a different time now. The master plan is about ready to be brought out. You know, all the timing is starting to work. You're right, timing is everything. And so I agree with you, Abe, and I think that, and we are discussing the DDA and discussing that. It hasn't come up here totally yet, but it is being discussed, so you know we are aware of it, and we are paying attention to what the different communities' DDA budgets are and why, and so we are addressing those.
The DDA, you know the history of downtown too. So, I mean, with that downturn, so that our TIF monies ended up being impacted by the devaluation of those properties and stuff. So that plays a role in it. They're escalating back now, but I'm leaning towards the idea that growing the footprint of the DDA would certainly be in our best interest. But I did want to say the cost of a new DDA director and economic development director is an investment in ourselves. So it is a risk. I mean, like often takes place just in business. You end up rolling the dice, you take an educated guess on what the return on that investment will be, and I think that it's going to end up paying off for us to make this investment, and it certainly wouldn't go on endlessly. If there's not a return on the investment, we'll have to end up making an adjustment down the road. But that's the way I'm looking at this decision as well, is we're investing in our own downtown. So, and we're in a position to be able to take a little riskier move right now. I mean, we've come out the dark side, so from that dark economic downturn. So.
Okay, manager's report.
Okay, got a few things. I want to point out a couple of things that were in your packet. We received a thank you letter from Helen Wan. She is with the elementary school, the Gretschko Elementary School, West Bloomfield. Bob Martin gave her students a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. She wanted to commend him on the wonderful experience and the information that she provided to them, and I think it's very important that we, recognize Bob for everything he does out at the wastewater treatment plant. At the same time, I also want to give him an opportunity to talk to you about the sewer project repair that he did over the weekend. That was basically an emergency repair that kept sewer flowing from the entire north end of the community. So I will turn it over to Bob for a moment.
Thank you, Lynn. As far as Helen and the elementary school, it was really a rewarding experience. Great group of kids, and it was a lot of fun. This past Saturday, at the last meeting I spoke to, we thought we had that job done, buttoned up, and ready to roll. When we introduced flow to that line that was going to take the sewage across the tracks into the wastewater plant, it wasn't going nowhere. That sinkhole that we repaired, we found out where it went. It went down that line, and we could not get that line open, and in turn, upon further investigation, we found a break in that pipe. So on Saturday, we did an emergency repair there, and the company that came in did that work in approximately 8 hours. It was phenomenal. They dug a 50-foot long hole, about 20 feet wide, 20 feet deep, and replaced 30 feet of collapsed sewer line. The only way we get sewage from the north end of the town to the south end, we've made that repair. Even though it's fixed right now, this is a large Band-Aid we put on it. There will be future maintenance issues in the future going forward. It's not over, we're in good shape right now. It was our chance of helping any blight, because if we backed 13 homes of sewage up, there would have been a lot of blight. All right, so with that said, we're in good shape right now, and I feel really, really pleased about this, so. Any questions?
Big hole. I
Big
drove
hole.
by it.
You saw how big that was.
Muddy, too. Well, I hope it was mud.
Yeah, it was all mud, and I slept better the last 2 nights, because that was a pretty nerve-wracking job.
I've got a question, Bob. You said, you just said a minute ago that we're not totally out of the woods with this. Are we going to have another emergency,
I
or?
don't believe so, but we should look at relining that line, that pipe. That pipe is approximately 40, we figured it was put in, had dinner with Dave Miller, who worked for the city for 38 years last night. He doesn't remember that line going in, and he started in 77. So that line's been in there a long time.
Yeah.
We have no other way to cross the tracks except the way that pipe goes across the track now. In the not-too-distant future, we should do our due diligence and find another bore that we could possibly put across that track for future use. And what's killing that line, it's concrete, is hydrogen sulfide gas. When mixed with oxygen turns to sulfuric acid and is literally eating away the concrete. In turn, what we put down that hole was PVC pipe with cement wrapped around it, so it's impervious to that. That'll last for 80 years. That's the way to go now. But that isn't what was used back 50-some years ago when
Yeah.
that line was put in.
So you're talking about ongoing maintenance,
Yes,
not
absolutely.
another
Yeah.
emergency
And,
kind
you
of thing.
know, you hate to say it's gonna be a long time, but I hope it's a long time. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we have 2 or 3 years that we can plan going forward and come up with a really nice plan to start dealing from manhole to manhole and making repairs as we go.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, you also had in your packet the job description you'd asked for the administrative assistant for the city clerk and I. Unless there's any questions, concerns with that, Lisa and I are going to move forward with advertising for that position. Want to remind you that we have the council strategic planning retreat on March 19th. I believe I have found a location. I don't want to reveal it right now until the contracts are signed, because I don't want to jinx that and lose the place. Right now, we're penciled in, but we've got to finalize some contract details. It is a location within the city limits, so the council will be happy, and it meets all of the specifications that the facilitator requested. And then the last thing is we need to set dates for the budget work sessions. I'm going to start meeting with the administrative department heads this week. I meet with Mike, and starting next week, the other department heads. I know Mary had not wanted to do any budget work sessions in February, so I didn't push this earlier. The budget must be approved by the council no later than the second council meeting in May. That's according to our city charter. So we would need to be looking at Saturdays in either March or April to do the budget work sessions. I'd like to break it up into 2 sessions so that we don't turn it into a 8-hour day this year. Are there any specific Saturdays that the council is not available in March and April, other than the 19th that we already have planned?
In the past, Lynn, we've always done those during the weeknights, you know. I didn't know if you were aware of that for the budget meetings, so.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Last year we did it on a weekend. We did it on a Saturday.
No, we did, okay.
Yeah, Bob, I remember, yeah, we have.
Yeah, I remember Joey used to do that, yeah.
We
And,
could do it on off Mondays if the council would prefer. So Mondays that we don't have council meetings, we could do it on off Mondays in March or April.
I have a suggestion I just want to throw out there. I know the school board, when they do their workshops, sometimes they'll do it before their regular meeting. That may not be enough time, let's say if we meet at 6. But if we were to say, set one day during the week, even at 5 o'clock.
I can't do it.
and then have a follow-up if necessary, maybe before another, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I work till usually 6 o'clock each night, so that could be a problem.
I'm okay with Saturday as well, I just thought I would throw in some suggestions.
Yeah, the only Saturday I'm gonna be gone is April 2nd. I would like to take a vacation.
Are those off Mondays inconvenient for anybody?
There's school board, I think.
The school board would be in here, so we would have to meet in the conference
Well,
rooms.
we typically do anyway, so. yeah.
The first Monday of every month, I'm tied up with Panthers. I have one Monday free a month. It's beautiful. So that'd be the third Monday for me. I don't know about anybody else, but I actually have one Monday open.
Well, luckily, it only comes around once a year that we have to do this, so.
I'm not opposed to a Saturday.
I'm good till.
No, I'm fine either way,
It doesn't
but-
matter to me. Yeah. The only Saturday I'm out of town is the 2nd of April. Other than that, I'm good.
We could do it consecutive Saturdays, the 9th and the 16th. That way we're avoiding the Easter holiday, which is on the 27th of March.
I got a Boy Scout creek cleanup on the 16th. Is in, what are we talking about, March or April?
April.
Oh,
On the 16th of April, I have,
You've got cleanup.
yeah, Boy Scouts.
Okay, we could do the 9th and the 23rd.
Creek.
Which troop?
All the Boy Scouts.
All of them? Good, I'll make sure my kid's out there.
You said when, I'm sorry, Lynn?
The 9th of April and the 23rd of April.
I can do both of those.
So could I.
Yep. Okay.
Want to pencil that in?
All right, we will pencil those in. That is all I have this evening. The rest you will be getting email tomorrow with a catch-up of, I believe it's 4 weeks of weekly reports, including last week's. So you should be caught up on that, as well as my report from the conference that I attended. So that should all be coming tomorrow.
Thanks, Lynn.
Closing remarks, council, anyone? Aggie?
Yeah, I wanted to report that the last council comment, I talked about the letter that I received from the concerned citizens or the concerned parents with respect to Millennium, Centennial, and Sayre. And this is regarding Mr. Vapor that is over there on 9 Mile Pontiac Trail. I did make an announcement that I was going to contact Lanny Young. I did contact Lanny. We had a great conversation. Then I spent a week talking to individuals all over the country that were dealing with the vapor issue. They sent me materials. I forwarded them over to Lyon Township. And I was not there on the Wednesday night, but I was over there on Thursday. I do have a copy of Lyon Township's ordinance with respect to the vapor lounges. They passed it last Wednesday under their police ordinance, so they did not have to take the ordinance to the planning commission. It was done right at a township meeting. They do have a posting period for this to actually become effective. And I want to commend Lyon Township for jumping on this in about a week and a half and putting through an ordinance that not only protects, their residents in Lyon Township, but they've really done a great service for the parents that have children here in South Lyon. There was a reason that I asked, and so I would hope that South Lyon would also engage in drafting an ordinance that is also addressing these new vapor lounges that are coming up. There was a reason why I asked Judge Bondi regarding vaporing, and I'm only going to mention one thing, is that I spoke with the Citizens Against Legalizing Marijuana out in California. They have a branch in Sacramento, in Northern California, and Southern California, and they enlightened my eyes to the trend. The trend is that these vaping lounges open up just like mushrooms all over the place. And what happens is once you get the vaping in and you have medical marijuana approved in your state, the next step is going to be recreational marijuana, which is exactly what Judge Bondi was talking about. and recreational marijuana is on the ballot in California in November. And the problem is exactly what Judge Bondi said, is at the potency level that when you take marijuana and put it into these vaping is almost 90%. And the longitudinal studies on humans with that kind of concentration in the brain is not available yet. And it is exactly what Judge Bondi said, is that it's dropping IQ levels the higher the potency of the marijuana in the vaping. So if you get these vaping lounges, I just want to remind you that we will probably have recreational marijuana in the state of Michigan in about 5 years. So this is really becoming a very, very important concern for the community. So I would once again encourage the city, if there's any interest, to move forward on a vaping ordinance. And once again, I've received about 12 emails from people. I have this in digital form, so I've been sending it to parents in digital form for them to look at. I'm not going to interpret Lyon Township's ordinance. You can read it or call them, but I think we owe them just a debt of gratitude for doing what they did. Thank you.
Well, as a parent of a son attending Millennium, I'm very thankful for Lyon Township passing that ordinance, and I agree we need to do something probably in South Lyon. On another note, the kickoff meeting was tonight for Volunteer Park with the Parks and Rec. I believe it was taking place at Millennium. And since I'm on the board of the Panthers, I was invited, but I wasn't able to go because of this. But I'm happy that it's moving forward, and I hope on the Parks and Rec and these various youth groups that are involved in this project keep it moving forward. I would really like to see some new fields in Volunteer Park next summer. Thanks.
Thanks, Chief, for the annual report. I'm looking forward to reading it.
You're welcome.
That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to comment on this what's it called, vaping?
It's vaping.
Vaping, yeah. My understanding is that this is very, very serious. I mean, there's no smell, so I guess what I've been reading is kids are doing it in class or sneaking off in the back, and it's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's just, I'm glad that Lyon Township took this up, and I think this is something we strongly need to have, if more or less to, at the very least, have a deterrent. I mean, who knows if it'll stop these companies from coming in, but they may think twice if they see an ordinance in place that kind of, we send a message that we want to look out for the children in this one. So I would like to see an ordinance put together. Tim, I don't know if that's something, what the timeline would be for that, but I'd like to get your input if that's something you'd be willing to work on.
Yeah, obviously, I'd like to see what Lyon Township did, figure out.
I'll send you the digital tonight. You'll have it tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I don't mean to make false urgency, but if possible, maybe at the next council meeting or council meeting after that, then that would be a great timing, at least for my expectation. So, wanted to comment on that. Also, just wanted to point out that today we made a lot of appointments to various commissions and boards. And for those who don't know, there's a lot that's involved, a lot of volunteer hours, a lot of behind-the-scenes work, and I don't think they get enough credit. These are the people that show up to the meetings, Parks and Rec meetings, that make the plan, that develop for the future of our community. So, not just Parks and Recs, but everything. The Cable Commission, you were hinting at Dan. I'm very impressed with that gentleman. I'm impressed with Cultural Arts Commission, Housing Commission, Historical Commission. There's so much history in this community that we just have a gem of people that are willing to help out our community. So I just wanted to thank everybody who stepped up. Also wanted to point out, we talk a lot about the downtown, and I think it's important that we promote our downtown businesses. So I want to point out that the Lyon Theater, is it now the Lyon Theater or the Lyon? They've had two different names.
I was just there last night.
Did you see?
Reverend.
Yeah, I'm very impressed, and I wanted to point out what they're doing. They're having classic movies on Monday nights, and the next one is To Kill a Mockingbird, and that's on March 14th. I don't believe it's every Monday, but if you go to their website, they have a schedule of the movies, and it looks like it's once a month. But I'm just really impressed with that business. They're now having children's movies. They're having
classic movies, so they're trying to cater to various segments of viewers. So I would encourage you to check it out. Other than that, thank you.
I think that's a great idea that you pass that along, because unfortunately, it sounds as though it's going to be the second Monday of the month, so we will never be able to avail ourselves of it. But that whole classic movie thing, I think, is a cute idea. So, my only misgiving about the whole vapor thing is I wish that they would have acted prior to somebody making an investment in a sign. They had to get a sign approved. It seems like that would have been an indicator that that was going to be a problem.
It was really interesting. I mean, I've talked to people in California, New Jersey, New York, and one of the things they said is that what these companies do is they deliberately look to communities that do not have the ordinances. And literally, that sign went up almost overnight. They deliberately target communities that do not have the ordinances.
Okay. I was hoping that we would have a discussion about the whole code of ethics thing tonight. So do you have a feel for when that's going to take place?
I spoke with Dave Gillum, who does the city's prosecutions, is going to provide something in writing to council regarding the options that might be available to council. I don't have a date certain. He thought that he would be ready for next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And I guess the question would be whether you want him here, whether something will be put into writing, but the question was whether you want him here to discuss anything pertaining to that
I would
issue.
prefer he just end up sending us information. If we find that we need a little bit more information, then we could always act on that. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents worth.
So there may be some practical issues about if he needs to be present, whether it's at the next meeting and when he can get something in writing and to you. And if there's some interest, if it's far enough in advance, we can find out if he's available for the council meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's all I had.
Yep, neither. So, that's it.
Okay, good. Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh.
No, you don't. Just adjourn.
I'll move.
Aye.